Cheese. I wanted a piece of cheese.
She's going for cheese.
Well, I wanted a
Honey, here's the
cheeseburger.
napkin.
You know, you'd think we've never eaten before.
Yeah, well.
This bun is busted.
How does it go? They're not
Thank you.
animals, they're actors. Oh, yeah? Have you ever eaten
No, I have
them?
to.
It's from
Stop insulting.
It's from the producers.
Well, you know what?
She's insulting people.
Yeah, I know.
I love that. I love. Oh, she's insulting.
No, you're insulting.
Do you have any yellow
I'm
mustard?
insulted.
You called me an
Producers.
actor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
you
from the
do.
producers.
Shay, could you go get some yellow mustard?
I would be happy to.
That's probably one of the funniest movies of all time. The
Bruce is pretty
Yeah.
damn funny.
Well,
Did you see
most
the
of
play?
Mel Brooks' stuff is funny.
But see, I'm such a huge Gene Wilder fan. I had such a crush on him.
That brings up a subject near and dear to my heart, which of course is medical marijuana. Because there's Gilda Radner, who we all adore, right? And Gene Wilder taking such wonderful care of her. And our Attorney General doesn't want people who are terminally ill with cancer, which my husband was, to have the marijuana that will bring them comfort.
Why is he against it?
Why is
I
something
mean,
that brings people comfort in their
Exactly.
when they're
dying,
of
in
medical
agony,
crisis?
in
Is
agony.
it a religious issue?
I believe
mean,
it's a
is
moral,
that-
No,
it's
it's
a
moral.
quote-unquote moral issue.
It's moral.
How is it moral to? It's much more immoral to say that someone should languish and suffer.
Of course it is. It's cruel.
Well, all of that kind of stuff in terms of
It makes me crazy.
making people comfortable, even when it comes to the assisted suicide stuff.
Absolutely. How can anyone be? It's your again having watched someone die.
It goes back to the right to do with your own body.
Yes.
It's all
Yes.
civil rights. And
Which
human rights.
which crosses into abortion rights, which crosses into
so many
suicide rights and all of that.
exactly.
Well,
so
that's
many
another
rights.
thing for the administration, for Ashcroft too. I mean, it's his doing that. You know, in Oregon now, I think assisted suicide is legal, as long as two doctors say that someone is about to die. I think it's like within a certain time frame, maybe even 6 months. I don't know exactly what the statute is, and that they are in pain, that they then have the right to request something that allows them to end their life. And the administration is against it. And I just think that we need to allow people that if they're going to die and they're in pain, that they have the ability to decide for themselves.
It's so ironic that suicide is illegal, so that if you try to kill yourself and you fail, they put you in jail
Which
for
would depress
trying
me
to
more.
take your own life.
They just, in other countries, they laugh at us over our whole morality on these issues. We're the most secretive and shamed nation about this natural process in the world.
And it's the one thing that's an absolute guarantee in this world.
You know what, though, I have to say, in defense of certain organizations, when my husband was dying, the hospice care that we got, the nurses especially, were spectacular. I mean, in hospice, I mean, just compassionate and caring. And, you know, that's the triumph of the human spirit over government, regardless of administration, you know, because they were great.
My grandmother actually bought a gun years before she killed herself, and she shot herself. And she did that because she was in so much pain, and she never wanted to be hooked up with tubes in a hospital and miserable. And so they have to do an autopsy in a situation like that because it's a gun-inflicted wound. And they found that her spleen was so large that there was no way that they were amazed that she was in the amount of pain that she was in, and you know, had not sought more medical attention. And she had bought the piece years before, you know, and I don't think that someone should have to go to that measure.
I've always been torn on the whole issue of capital punishment, because on some level I'm an eye for an eye kind of person.
Me too.
Right.
I really feel that if
Me
you
too.
do something heinous,
Yep.
why should my taxes pay to
keep
give you a
you-
roof
yeah.
over your head the rest of your life, and
So
give
do
you
I.
a gym to work out and a television? You have a better life than homeless people.
Absolutely.
Why should my taxes?
And God knows we're not taking care of homeless people. So
Right.
why are we taking? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But then on the other hand, people say, well, we still don't have the right to take somebody's life. And then, well, why don't we just ship them off to an island and make them fend for themselves like Survivor and let them deal with it?
And televise it.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's a great idea.
We might have hit on something.
That's a great idea, and that's a great idea.
I don't know that we need to televise it, but
It's
Well,
a it's a
but the
pay-per-view
money-
event. Yeah.
Money
but
alone.
why, you know, pick some place, you know, that we just
Australia.
that they can't.
That's how Australia came to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that is Australia.
Exactly.
I think you're absolutely right, because a couple of things concern me about capital punishment. Now, being half Sicilian, I know what you mean. You know, you want revenge. But the mistakes that are, well, yeah, I do feel that when you commit some horrible crime, you should be punished severely. But death is too final a punishment. What if a mistake is made?
If you don't want to do capital punishment,
And
then,
I'm not sure.
Then what's your solution?
Look, I understand the concept of you may have to lose a few innocent people here along the way, but I still say if they're heinous enough, you got to get rid of them. I don't want to pay for them. I don't want to keep them going in their gyms and with their TV and having a decent quality of life. I say sorry, and I apologize for the ones who do have to die if they were innocent.
Oh,
But
I kind of agree with you to a certain extent. I mean,
Oh, God.
it's not
the
like this is
humanity.
the ideal situation, but you kind of have to, I think, get it to the point where you show people that this is what's going to happen. And it might not happen to everybody, and you might get through some innocent people on the way, but something's got to be changed because you can't just let them.
Boys, if I may, I think if you were sitting on death row and you hadn't done it, you'd feel differently. However, having said
Well,
that, I agree we have to do something with horrible, violent people. I could never decide to have someone executed. I don't think, but maybe I could. I don't know.
if they
I
did
don't
something
know.
to one of my kids, for instance, I would have absolutely no compunction about flipping the switch or pushing the button.
But I'd almost rather you do it mano a mano as opposed to the state doing it. Almost. But then we start to talk about
I would
blah,
actually rather
blah.
do it
I don't
myself.
know. I don't know.
There's people that are like, sorry,
I don't
you
know.
know, I want to have 4 people do it, so we're not exactly sure who executed him. I want to be the one to execute him.
I understand. I understand.
I would have absolutely no problem with that.
How do you define what is worthy of a severe punishment? There was this story a number of years ago about this man who set his son on fire. Remember that?
Like
Yes,
you do.
I do. Yes, I do.
David Rothenberg was the child.
That was
Yes,
it.
you're
Charles
right.
Rothenberg was the
You're
father.
right. You're right.
And he set him on fire.
Yes.
Fire.
And he did his time, and he is now a free man.
Yeah. I have a
think-
problem with that.
I think if we were in the Old West, I would set him on fire,
I agree.
put him out,
See how it feels.
and let him walk around the rest of his life
absolutely
looking
agree.
like that.
I absolutely agree.
If that
How do
were
you
the
like it?
punishment,
Yes.
Did his son die?
We'd have a lot.
No,
No,
he's
his
just-
son didn't die.
he's
He's alive and maimed. Yes.
And
and disfigured for
and,
the rest of his life.
Horrible, you know.
And obviously in a lot of
I interviewed
therapy,
him
too.
once, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
A filmmaker. He went into becoming a filmmaker.
David Rothenberg, yeah.
How old
he
is
seemed
he?
like a normal
nice
kid,
kid.
except for his appearance, which is, you know,
Jeez, that's
grotesque.
brutal.
I absolutely agree. That man should
he was
experience
burned over
what he
90% of his
did.
body. It was a
Yes.
miracle he survived.
Did his father give a reason for doing it? Or
Oh, I
did he
think
just
It was a
feel like doing
custody
it?
thing.
Yeah,
He had
exactly.
weekend visitation, took him
Right.
down
It was to get
to
back to the
Anaheim
mother.
in Disneyland.
To get back at the mother?
It was a
Marie.
it was a motel in Anaheim.
Jesus.
And while he was sleeping, he doused him with gasoline and set him in the
Oh,
bed on
jeez.
fire. If the punishment were to fit the crime more directly, it would be a deterrent. It really would.
I think so.
In other countries, your hands are cut off when you're a thief, I think.
I think they're in the Middle East.
Are they? Yeah. Well, whichever country it is, guess what? They don't have a lot of theft going on over there.
It's because all the thieves have no hands.
After a while, you can't steal anything.
Yeah, they just bite things and run away.
You handless freak. That's right.
Rachel, I think we might agree that that's rather brutal. But having said that, I think that father should experience the same thing that his son experienced.
I like to think that we're civilized enough and respectful as people that you don't sink to that level
Well,
necessarily.
you
then
think
how do you deal with somebody like that?
What do you,
Well,
what do you
I
do?
don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I
but
certainly don't.
Incarceration
But there's-
is too good for him.
It is too good for him.
Well, I'm not saying incarceration is the answer either.
Unfortunately, the law is set up to help criminals more than it is victims.
Talking about capital punishment and
Cutting off people's hands if they steal.
No, actually,
I
no,
bring
what-
on-
Is
No.
everybody for, against, what?
mixed
Is there
feelings.
mixed?
Mixed feelings.
We're
mixed
pro no
feelings.
crime, anti-crime.
Yeah, that's true. We were talking. Rachel brought up the man who set his son on fire, and after 10 years was paroled. And horribly disfigured his child. What do you do with that? We thought it was a good idea to set him on fire, so he knew what it felt like, and Charlie thought that was harsh.
Well,
I thought,
I'm
you
not
know,
saying take it easy on the guy. I'm not saying poor guy, we should give him a break. I just
I know.
like to think that we're better than that.
We're not.